Hey there, folks. Welcome to today's episode of the SME Strategy Podcast. I am a nerd. I love talking to other nerds. Dr. Harris, who I'm about to speak with, may or may not self-identify as a nerd, but when you start thinking of the words, what doctor, NASA, physician, you have to have a curiosity and a pursuit for excellence, sometimes to a nerdy degree. And I think that just shows up in passion, care, and love. And so, one of the reasons I wanted to interview Dr. Harris to hear about his journey, to hear about his new book, is really because he has so many accomplishments on the pursuit of nerdiness, pursuit of excellence, and now written a book on achieving your highest potential. So, Dr. Bernard Harris, I'm just so excited to chat with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the SME Strategy Podcast.
I'm glad to be here. And yes, I am identified as a nerd, probably the nerd out there, and proud of it.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate it. Well, you have many claims to fame, and this is, certainly not one of them, or it is one of them. The first Black astronaut to walk in space. I know you identify as so many things more than that, but it's what I have here on your bio. You've written a book. You've done so many things. Tell our listeners about who you are, what makes you incredible, and I'll get into some questions.
Okay. Well, let me start by saying that how I got into this whole business was as a kid, 13 years old in 1969. I say 1969 for young people. And I saw Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin land on the moon, and I was hooked. I was hooked with my head, this idea of, human beings leaving this planet and going to another. And then this idea that I could follow in their footsteps. And that's how it began.
That's awesome. I mean, one of the questions I hadn't asked you or asked you in our pre-interview is why did you walk into space, or why did you, become an astronaut? And then what I was going to ask you was about time zones on space, because I had just come from a trip. What is it like being in space, and not just having the Zoom background like you do right now? What is space like? And then we'll talk about career and that kind of stuff after.
Well, can I share with your audience about how to get into space? It's kind of cool. I like describing that. So
Yes,
I
please.
flew on board two shuttles. First one was Columbia, Space Shuttle Columbia. The next was Discovery. And you've seen these pictures of the shuttle many times before, but you may not know that it weighs 5 million pounds. In order to get that 5 million pounds in the air, we light 5 engines that produce thrust of 7.5 million pounds of thrust. And when those engines light, you are leaving this planet so quickly that we get from Florida to space, 250 nautical miles above the Earth, in less than 8.5 minutes, going a mere 17,500 miles per hour. So that's kind of cool. But the fact that we're going that fast means we can go around the world every 90 minutes, get to see a sunset or sunrise every 45 minutes. So that is the backdrop that we have when we're, pursuing whatever activities that we're doing on orbit. But also, as I got to on my second mission, to go outside and do a spacewalk.
So, like I said, I have a lot of questions. Perspective on life. So, obviously, it's a business podcast. I could make, we say 30,000 feet. Well, you're way more than 30,000 feet. How do you even think of your life as a human being? And in the context of your career, when you get to see something as the Earth from an outside perspective, or, consider how small you might be in the vastness of space, how has that impacted your career as, a venture capitalist, a physician, an astronaut, all of the things that you do?
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot of questions in there, but let me see if I can answer it this way. When I did my spacewalk, we were done after about 4 hours or so, and I got a chance just to hang out. So we're hang out in this suit. It's called an EVA suit, extravehicular activity suit. That's that big white Michelin man's kind of suit that you see. It's a full pressure suit. And I'm just hanging out there on the end of the robotic arm, looking down at my fellow crew members in the spaceship below. And then behind them was the planet Earth, blue and white, because of the water and the swirls of clouds. And behind that, the sea of stars called the Milky Way galaxy. You got the picture. It was incredible to have that view. And as I thought about it, I felt that my role as an astronaut was to come back and to describe that to the audience as a way in which to unify us. Because as I look down on Earth, I don't see lines of latitude or longitude. I don't see writing on there that says this is Germany or this is the United States. I see one people. And after all, if there were something, people ask me about aliens all the time, but if there was other aliens out there coming to look at their Earth, they're not going to sort us out. They're just going to say, you are Earthlings, right? And either they're going to, embrace us or they're going to shoot us on the spot. I always joke by that. But it gives you a perspective, and I think it's a perspective that everyone on Earth should have. And very few of us have been blessed to have the opportunity, like I have, to have seen that view.
Yeah, no kidding. And from the ground up, strategy pun, there you go. Going from, that fast up into the sky, looking at that, and then having the time to hang out mentally. And so obviously, led you into writing a book, embracing infinite possibilities, letting go of fear to find your highest potential. So, we record this in May. The world is moving around, and the world does see differences in geographic lines and people and all of those things. And as individuals, whether they are CEOs of industry, whether senior managers, middle managers, students, just, trying to make, or just human beings, just trying to make life work for them. What are some of the things, and we don't give advice around here, but what are some of the reflections that you had as an individual trying to make your life work that might pour into somebody today and have them have their own perspective on their journey?
Yeah. So that description that I described, and looking at space and looking at the galaxy and realizing that there are over 300 billion galaxies out there. And some people would say that the space is infinite. And I like to say that so are we as individuals. And what I mean by that is our capacity to do things, to learn, to accomplish, to innovate. It's also infinite. And I think it's analogous to that. And that was one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because I am being asked to, speak to many groups, from, secondary to high school, to college, to professionals. And I always get asked that question, how did I do the things that I have done? It's because I discovered early on that I was an infinite being with infinite possibilities. And what I mean by that, that we are all multipotential, that we are all multi-talented, that we are all born for a reason. And my reason was captured in that moment as I looked down on my crew member and on Earth in the context of the universe. And so I want to make sure that people, no matter where they are, who they are, what sex they are, what color they are, have the opportunity to fulfill their dreams, whatever that dream is for them.
And so some folks might consider that type of thinking spacey. And, however, all of the top performers in the world do have mantras, beliefs, thoughts, contexts that set themselves up for their own success. So well before you were, nominated, inducted into the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame, you were somebody who watched, these Neil Armstrong, et cetera, go into space. How did that shape how you thought of who you could be as a leader, and how you thought of yourself even before being an infinite being? But how did that shape decision making? How did that shape your overcoming challenges, and obviously, resistance, being an innovator in the field that you are?
Yeah, yeah. So I attribute my first mentor in helping me in this whole process as my mother, right? She told me that I could be and do anything that I wanted to be. And so when I came to her and said I want to be an astronaut, she said, you know what? You can be and do anything you want to be. That's, as parents, that's what we are supposed to do, right? To enable our kids. And she enabled me in a way that was lasting even to this day. And I pass that on to my children. and my daughter especially. And which, by the way, none of them have followed in my footsteps. No, nobody wants to be an astronaut or a doctor. They're doing their own thing. But that's what this is not about. It's about dreams. And I remember one of the first quotes that just came to me was this notion that dreams are the reality of the future. Think about that. Dreams are the reality of the future. Before you can do a thing, you have to see yourself doing it. And when I'm talking to elementary school kids, I will say that I used to envision me in my very own spaceship going to the moon, just like Neil and Buzz, and then going on the Mars. And I know it sounds kind of crazy and kind of stupid, but you have to visualize yourself doing a thing, which simply means that you have to set goals, right? Goals in life as an individual, goals in life and goals in business as a CEO or a senior manager. You have to set that vision for yourself and for that team, and be able to elicit that in a way that they understand, and that you can work together in accomplishing whatever that mission is.
Yeah. So you're on the board of a couple Fortune 500 companies. How do you use that thinking? How do you use that knowledge to support the CEOs that you work with? Because in those, scenarios, as much as your mother being supportive, you're not exactly the father figure, unless maybe you are in those situations. How do you take that, ambition that anything is possible with the future forward dream, but also tag that into tactical execution, working as a team, really enabling people to execute?
The CEOs that's part of your audience understand that being a CEO of an organization can be lonely. It's lonely at the top because everybody is expecting you to know it all, to be it all, and to be able to be the motivator, right, to keep the company going forward. That's a very difficult position to be in. So as a board member, I feel that one of my important jobs is to support the CEO, to be there to listen to the CEO when he or she is describing a challenge that the organization may have, or a task that needs to be accomplished, to be that sounding board for them and for the senior management team or executive team to move things forward. And that's what my goal is. And also to bring a level of expertise that may not be exactly the company that I'm sitting on the board in. So I'm bringing in a different perspective that allows them to see things maybe differently, because we can get into our positions and we can be so focused that we have blind spots, and so it's to help the leader to figure out where those blind spots are and where those gaps are, and help them see them and overcome them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, speaks to, as a leader, making sure that you have the right folks around you, and then just recognizing, perspective. Going through the theme of it, perspective is very depending on where you are. And so shifting your perspective, especially in times where you feel alone or uncertain times, just helps you get grounded, even if you're, up in space.
Exactly.
Brad, I could ask you any question. What do you want people to think about? What do you want them to take from this? What challenge do you have for them as they continue, whether that's early stage career, late stage career? What do you want them to think about as they move forward in the days and weeks of their work here?
Yeah. So a couple of things. The importance of setting goals, and not just goals, but audacious goals, I think are really important. Um, Being able to continue to learn, because sometimes we kind of get set in our ways, right? And so we become insular, and in so we may miss opportunities. So be open-minded to look at what those opportunities might be. Realizing that not everything is going to work out, right? Some people call that failure. I call that an opportunity, right? So there are going to be challenges that you're going to meet up to, and you can either meet those challenges, or you can use those challenges to move forward, or you can allow them to keep you from accomplishing whatever your goal is individually, or company goals, and that's important. So seeing those failures, quote unquote, as opportunities to learn, to fill in those gaps that I talked about a few minutes ago, and to expect have high expectations of not only yourself, but the people around you. And people are going to basically ladder up to those expectations. So set those expectations high.
Awesome. What I find, like all journeys, life journey, here recording this in 2025, you never know what thing is going to make a difference and the thing that sticks with you. And so my hope for you, the listener, is that something that resonated today, you take that in your journey to step up, to overcome whatever challenge it is, big or small, while you may or may not, walk the face of the moon or become a venture capitalist or a board member, is that, you as a human being has infinite possibilities, that there is always a place to go from here, and that surrounding yourself with people that care and love about you and that support and want your success is so critical into being able to, reach your highest possibilities. So, Dr. Harris, thanks for being here today. It's been such a privilege. And where can people connect with you? Where can they learn more about the work that you're doing?
You could go to my website, is the harrisinstitute.org. Had to think about it because I have a couple of websites. Also, vesaliusventures.com is the venture capital website, or you can simply just Google or Bing me, and it'll connect you.
Excellent. And if you're at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex, you can check out the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame, where his presumably smiling mug will be there for years to come. Please do check out his book, Embracing Infinite Possibilities, Letting Go of Fear to Find Your Highest Potential, for just you to really get the most out of today. So, Dr. Harris, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure and a privilege, and I wish you nothing but the best in the future with everything you do.
Thank you, Anthony.
Folks, this has been the SME Strategy Podcast. My guest, Dr. Bernard Anthony Harris Jr., NASA astronaut, physician, venture capitalist, and inductee to the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My invitation, share this with somebody who's going through their own journey. Who knows what, one or two words will make a big difference, and who knows what limitless potential might be of them with your support. So I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you being here. And as always, till next time.